Hawkeye episode 3 titled Echoes just dropped on Disney Plus, and I've got to tell you guys, I've really been enjoying this show overall through these first 3 episodes so far. That is exactly what I'm going to be talking about in this video. So if you don't want spoilers, you might want to get out of here because I'm definitely going to be going into some of those things in this video. But before you go, let me know what you have thought about the Hawkeye series so far in the first 2 episodes if you haven't watched this third one yet. And if you have watched the third one, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. I want to know all of those things. Let me know all of your thoughts. What's up, everybody? Trinity here. Welcome back to 2nd Street. Smash that like button. Let's get right into this review on Hawkeye episode 3. As I said, it is titled Echoes, and I think there was definitely some echoes in this episode. The first 2 episodes of this series I thought were really good. I don't know what it is about them that really has me drawn in to this show, and episode 3 done nothing any different than those 2 did. One of the things I gotta say before I really get into a whole lot of this is I think Marvel has really been out there listening and learning to their fans. Not only fans of the MCU and other movie fans out there, but also definitely comic fans and things like that as well. I really do kind of feel that in this episode. And what I mean is, I don't mean like they're holding so true to the roots of these characters of Clint Barton and Kate Bishop and Maya Lopez or anything. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they're, how would you say, respecting the source material and pulling from the comics. They're definitely pulling stuff from the comics here for sure, putting stuff into this show. But one of the things I like is the storytelling that they are doing. They are doing things right here. Like I said, they've learned. It's not like they're doing everything the best, but they have definitely learned some things. Like, you don't just put a character in there and say, hey, this person's so great. And I'm not even talking about just necessarily a Mary Sue, but putting a character in there and showing that they, like, hey, this person's just great. They've actually been showing over these 3 episodes, as they've introduced characters, what this person has done, why they're so great. In the first episode, in the title sequence, we've seen why Kate Bishop, how she was coming up as a child, the things that she went through, with her karate training, her archery, and just those different kinds of things. We've seen those similar kind of things going through these first 3 episodes. They're really digging into the characters, showing you who the characters are, why we should like these characters, why we should maybe connect with these characters, and why they are who they are, why they've got their powers, if you will, why they're so good at what they are doing. They've definitely learned these things, and they are doing that in this series. I see it. They did it with the Kate Bishop thing. Here in episode 3, they start the episode off with the exact same thing going into Maya Lopez, a character named Echo from the comics that I honestly don't really know much about. I don't know much about this character at all. Nothing. Like, I really don't. And so, like, just what I do know of this character from things I've heard, just on the internet or anything. I haven't done the normie Google search or anything. I prefer to read the comics. And I'm not a professional, but the comics I have read and I do read, I really enjoy. But the thing that they are doing is they're bringing all of these things in through all these things, and they're doing it all the right way with this stuff. Now, like I said, I can't speak to whether they are holding true to the comics or not, and let's face it, at this point, we know they're not. They haven't been doing that for a while. So, I mean, the expectation for that is pretty low. What I do want is a good representation of these characters in these shows, and like I said, I think they've learned from what they did in the comic books with some of these characters to what they're putting on screen. And I think there's been a rough, it's kind of been a rough road here since these Disney Plus shows have launched. WandaVision, like, being my favorite, then kind of how they were all released. WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, and then What If. That's kind of how I rank all these series as well. But this one right here, and all those shows came out at a time here during 2021, right after the pandemic and everything, where everything was a little bit crazy, and I feel all these shows were really affected by all those shutdowns. We're here in Hawkeye. I feel like this show is really well put together. I have little nitpicks about it here and there, but this show feels largely unaffected. The show is flowing really great. Every episode leaves me wanting to see the next episode. Here in episode 3, they gave us a little more, give us a little more information, promising on that cliffhanger from episode 2, where we were learning like who's this girl that is not talking that we're supposed to be scared of. You know, we learned that in this episode, who she is, what we're supposed to be scared of. You know, how formidable of an opponent she is, and that's what we get in this episode, as well as expanding the world of Clint and Kate coming together to kind of learn and mentor and mentee, and just some really good stuff here in this episode. Obviously, the other thing that they are doing here in this series is really, I know everybody hates the word representation and stuff like that, but here they are. You can tell in the series they're starting to represent a little bit more out there. I remember hearing this story come out for like the Eternals, where they were talking about, oh man, why can't I remember the fast one's name all of a sudden? Yeah, you know, the one who was signing, you know, doing the sign language and stuff. And no, I'm not signing. I just talk with my hands a lot. But we see in how they're kind of doing a little bit more of that stuff. I remember there being there was an article about people talking like, oh, it's so great to see more people out there signing, more kind of representation for people in the deaf community and stuff like that. Here in Hawkeye, they're obviously doing even more of that, as we've seen Clint with his hearing issues doing sign language with his kids in the first episode, and then everything kind of going on after that. Here it's largely in episode 3 when we get introduced to our character of Maya Lopez, Echo, and when she's communicating with, I believe that was her uncle in this series, who we later find out gets murdered. And we see just kind of just some of those things. I think it's pretty cool. Like, I grew up when I was in school, and I'm pretty sure they still do it because my kids have learned sign language, at least their ABCs, some of those kinds of things, and stuff like that. I mean, that's fine, that's cool, and they're doing it in a way where, you know, it just really kind of helps with the story and shows where their characters are at instead of all the stuff. And one of the things that's kind of cool about it too is at times, you notice, like with Clint in this series, they're hearing everything kind of echoey, like the name of the episode. Everything's like echoey. You can barely like hear. It's like it's muffled, almost like you're underwater. Where at times with Maya Lopez, you can't hear nothing because she is deaf. You can't hear anything. Very cool stuff, like how they're kind of doing all of that. I really like that. I'm telling you, this series, I don't know what it is about it. They're doing phenomenal work here, and like. I'd say it's phenomenal. It's probably not like phenomenal, like world changing or anything, but compared to the other shows they've done here on Disney Plus, Hawkeye, I got to tell you, is standing head and shoulders above every other series that has come out to date so far. And I think largely because the others were affected by the pandemic, but everything they are doing right in this series, in the way they are doing everything. Now, like I said, with the progression, the character progression and stuff like that, showing Kate Bishop and showing these other characters why you're supposed to be afraid of them and why, you know, like just why they're formidable and stuff like that. We see that in this episode. Now, that doesn't always necessarily make it. That's not saying that a character still can't be a Mary Sue or anything like that. But they're at least covering all their tracks to make sure that we can do and see all of these things, or why these people are the formidable opponents or whatnot that they are. We see all that kind of happening in this episode. Something they've definitely learned here over the past handful of years. Like I said, from their comics to their movies, we see a lot more of that definitely going on in this series. Now, the series, we get introduced to Maya Lopez, and obviously we've seen Kate Bishop and Hawkeye after they were caught by the tracksuit mafia, trying to escape and all of that stuff, trying to clear Kate Bishop of the RONIN name. Just some of those things going on in this episode. Now we see, obviously, you know, the kind of getaway scene, the chase scene and everything that we've seen from the trailer, the trick arrows and all of those kinds of things. Definitely some cool stuff, you know, some good kind of fast-paced action. Nothing too over the top. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're not trying to be the most extravagant blockbuster action TV show that you're going to watch this year. But they're doing a very good job of pacing to get there with what they are doing in this series. And I would say, I mean, just in the Marvel sense of things, because there's certainly other shows and things out there that are good, but I think Marvel is really upping the quality with what they're doing with some of the action and stuff in this series as well. Like I said, they're getting better. So we get a lot of that. We get, obviously we get the Hank Pym arrow that Hawkeye uses in here. Something else very cool. They're kind of going through his trick arrows, if you will, going through and using some of those different ones, so showing the arsenal. Just kind of the whole Hawkeye thing. This show was largely Maya Lopez and Hawkeye. We also got some very cool scenes with Kate Bishop and Clint Barton, where they're there at her aunt's apartment, kind of recouping after they got away from the Tracksuit Mafia. And he has a little scene there where Jeremy Renner is talking with his son over the phone, and you see Kate Bishop, where she's largely, I wouldn't even say she's been annoying. She's just been a little immature and kind of self-centered. She's a kid. She's a youngster, right? And like in this episode, you see again, after she's having this interaction with Clint and his son, she gets it. She finally understands, right? She's like, crap, man. Like, all right. Like she's starting to understand. Like she don't still fully understand all of this, like the implications of being just, like how she interjected and kind of ruined his Christmas, if you will. Like she understands that now. She's getting it, but like she still don't fully get it. You can see that later in the show as some of the other things are kind of happening as well, as they're there enjoying some shawarma. I'm kidding. But just a lot of cool stuff going on in this episode. I've really enjoyed it. It obviously, once again, this episode obviously once again leaves us on a very nice cliffhanger with Clint Barton coming face to face with his adversary, the swordsman from the comics. Definitely a callback here. I don't think there's going to be any other real connection to these characters like there was in the comics, where the swordsman was kind of, the guy who kind of betrayed Clint or anything. I don't think anything like that's going to happen. Obviously, I mean, kind of given the age difference of these actors as well and everything, I don't think it's going to happen. But it's definitely cool to see kind of these confrontations, some of these kind of things from the comics coming to the screen so we can see those. Again, they're doing such a good job with this series, and I can't quite put my finger on exactly what it is. It's not going to do it for everybody. It's not the best show out there, but for these Marvel Studios shows they're putting on Disney Plus, to me, I think it's the best one that they've got going for them so far. And obviously, another thing I almost forgot was we've been hearing all those rumors about who coming back? Kingpin, right? We obviously seen in this episode what is a huge allusion to Kingpin. So, I mean, is he going to be in here? Are the rumors true? It would seem that they are. Unless this person that we seen there at Maya Lopez was somebody else. Now, there's only one other person I would guess that it could be at this point, but I don't think it's that person. But obviously, we're guessing this is all Kingpin. Wilson Fisk finally coming into the MCU. Going to be very interesting if that's what they do. But the only other person I could question it if it maybe is because the disappearance of Kate Bishop's father. Where's he at? I mean, and we see more father issues here once again. Kate Bishop kind of missing her father as she was growing up. He was obviously working for some sort of crime syndicate and everything. That conversation that he was having with their mother in the first episode at the very beginning of the series. I mean, just some of those kinds of things. And I feel, I think a lot of people out there kind of feel too the same thing is like, he's not dead. We didn't see him die. And we always feel that way about main characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe if we don't see things, right? You have to question it. You didn't see it? What happened? Just like people always talking about like Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, like, does he have to say it? And we all know the thing is yes, you do. We have to see the death. You have to say it, who you are. I mean, Doctor Strange, remember he introduced himself as a master of the mystic arts, not the Sorcerer Supreme. There's a difference. Hey, don't you dare try to argue with me about this. But we can see these things do have to happen. I kind of feel the same thing as a lot of these other folks do, is that Kate Bishop's father is probably still alive and he's out there working in this underground crime syndicate. Maybe he's actually the person that kind of is framing Jack Duquesne for the murder of his uncle Armand Duquesne, instead of it actually being her mother, which I kind of suspect because her mother seems a little bit fishy, right? Yeah, I don't know. obviously you can see some of the questions I'm asking here, some of the things that I'm speculating on, and that to me also is something that really indicates that Marvel has, once again, like I said, been hitting that stride with this show and what they are doing, leaving enough mystery, building up these characters, kind of doing all of those things, starting to do things the right way. I feel they've really hit their stride in this series. Like I said before this, the best one to me was WandaVision, and WandaVision was such a fun series, even to go back and watch now. And so this one, it's kind of like they got their stride and they're doing it. I am enjoying it. Let me know down in the comments below, what have you thought about the Hawkeye series so far? What did you think about episode 3? Titled Echoes. Let me know down in the comments below. But that's all I have for this video today, folks. Thank you all so much for being here today. Again, my name is Trinity. This is the Second Street Marvel. If you're not already, please make sure you subscribe. Click that little bell so you get notifications anytime we've uploaded new content or we do any live streams. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be streaming with my man Chillmonger. If you didn't check it out, make sure that you go check it out. We're going to be talking about Hawkeye episode 3. There'll probably be a link around here somewhere if I don't have it here available right now. It should be here. If not, it should be somewhere around here where we had that conversation. Very good stuff. But also, make sure you have those bell notifications on. Did I already mention that part? Do all that stuff. And make sure that you share with a friend and invite them to come hang out here on the Second Street Marvel, because also on Sunday mornings we are going to be having community streams. You all have a good day, and we'll see you in the next video. Later.